The sun had just begun to rise, spilling soft golden light across a quiet roadside diner. Steam curled up from hot coffee cups, and the low rumble of motorcycle engines mixed with the smell of fuel, bacon, and worn leather. A group of Hell's Angels bikers had stopped for breakfast, their chrome-lined bikes parked outside like silent guards. They looked intimidating, men most people would avoid, but beneath their heavy vests were lives full of untold stories. Laughter echoed among them, bouncing off metal and pavement, when suddenly a sharp, desperate cry cut through the morning air. Everyone froze. A small girl in a red dress came running across the parking lot. Her boots slipped slightly on the cold ground, her messy light brown hair flying behind her. Her face was streaked with dirt and tears, her eyes wide with fear. She pointed back toward the road, her arms shaking. "Please," she screamed. "They're hurting my mama. Please help her." The laughter vanished. Engines went silent. A few truckers glanced over, unsure what to do. No one moved, except one man. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in people who still step up when the world turns away, take a moment to subscribe to Good Vibes Hub, because what happened next will restore your faith in humanity. The man who stepped forward was Mason Cole, a broad-shouldered biker in his late 30s, his jacket marked with the red and white emblem of the Hells Angels. Life had shown him fights, loss, and betrayal, but never a child this afraid. He knelt down, gently steadying the girl's trembling hands. "Where's your mama?" he asked, his rough voice softened by concern. The girl could barely speak through her sobs. She pointed down the two-lane road toward a cluster of old trailers hidden behind trees. "They're hurting her," she cried. "Please." Mason stood up, his expression changing instantly. "Tank, Ryder, come with me," he said firmly. Within seconds, 3 Harleys roared to life. Tires screeched as they sped down the road, leaving dust swirling behind them. Back at the diner, one of the bikers wrapped the little girl in his jacket and brought her inside. She sat by the window, clutching the leather tightly, watching the red taillights disappear. Minutes passed in silence. Then, faint but unmistakable, shouting echoed through the air, followed by the roar of engines. Mason and his crew had reached the trailer. Inside, they found a woman cornered, terrified, her face marked by pain and fear. Before things could get worse, heavy boots hit the floor. Mason stepped in, stopping the attack and putting himself between the woman and danger. That morning, strength became protection. Fear met courage. And a child learned that even when the world feels cruel, someone will still answer a cry for help. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe to Good Vibes Hub for more real, powerful stories that remind us kindness still exists. The other bikers restrained the man effortlessly. No shouting. No speeches. Just action. Mason turned toward the woman, his hardened expression softening instantly. "Are you okay, ma'am?" he asked, his voice steady but tight with emotion. She nodded weakly, tears rolling down her face. Outside, the distant sound of police sirens began to echo. A neighbor must have called for help. When the officers arrived, the bikers didn't run. They stood calmly in the yard, hands visible. The little girl clung tightly to Mason's leg, refusing to let go. The woman, Carla, stepped forward and explained everything. The man was her ex-boyfriend, recently released from jail, who had tracked her down that morning. As the police led him away in handcuffs, Mason knelt beside the little girl. "You did good, kid," he said gently. "You were brave." They rode back to the diner together. Hannah sat on Mason's lap, holding a helmet far too big for her small hands as the sun climbed fully into the sky. When they returned, a small crowd had gathered, truckers, locals, travelers, all waiting. As soon as they saw Mason carrying Hannah safely, with her mother walking behind them bruised but alive, the entire place fell silent. Carla's voice shook as she thanked the bikers again and again. "I didn't think anyone would come," she whispered. Mason simply nodded toward Hannah. "She made sure we did." The diner owner stepped outside with blankets and hot coffee. One by one, the bikers removed their jackets and wrapped them around Carla and Hannah. Even the police officers paused, watching quietly, understanding this moment needed no words. Mason crouched down to Hannah's level. "Take care of your mama, all right," he said softly. "You're her little guardian angel." She nodded, gripping his sleeve with tiny fingers. Word spread fast. By lunchtime, half the town knew the story of the little girl in the red dress and the bikers who didn't hesitate when others froze. People stopped by the diner just to shake their hands and say thank you. When asked why they stepped in, Mason answered simply, "You don't ignore a cry like that. Doesn't matter what patch you wear. Some things are just human." Over the next few weeks, Carla and Hannah began rebuilding their lives. The community helped, furniture, groceries, even a small apartment. And every Sunday, a group of motorcycles could be seen parked outside the diner. The bikers would check in, bring supplies, or just sit quietly as a child's laughter filled the room. Months later, when spring returned, Hannah ran up to Mason holding a crayon drawing. It showed motorcycles, a little girl in red, and a man kneeling down. "This is us," she said proudly. Mason stared at it for a long moment before folding it carefully and tucking it into his vest. "That's riding with me wherever I go," he said. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Good Vibes Hub, because sometimes the toughest looking people carry the deepest kindness. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were one of those bikers? Yellow Heart Motorcycle.